Hi everyone, today I'm going to be reviewing the Lay Vampire Oracle deck by Lucy Cavendish with artwork by Jasmine Beckett-Griffith, produced by Blue Angel Publishing. This is the inside of the box, this beautiful blue color. The box itself, nice and sturdy. It's one that you're going to keep and you can store your cards in very easily. It's a typical Blue Angel great box. It's a nice box. It's really nice to keep, and I don't usually end up recycling my Blue Angel boxes because they are nice and sturdy, and if I'm moving, if I'm traveling, it's nice to have to store my deck in. This is the guidebook that accompanies the deck. The guidebook is 129 pages, not counting the back filler pages. There are, let me just see here, 44 cards as usual in the deck, and they are the traditional Blue Angel Oracle card size, nice and big. Here's a tarot deck to compare your size with. So you've got lots and lots of room for the artwork, and the artwork does not disappoint in this deck as usual. Jasmine never really disappoints us, though, does she? She always gives us just gorgeous artwork. So this is the backing for the card. The image is actually taken from the card, The Past a Prison in this deck. Let me see if I can find it. It was today's daily draw. It should be in here somewhere. Did I lose it? Anyhow, so the backing of the card is a kind of sepia toned print of the card, The Past a Prison, and let's see. I'm going to try to find it for you guys and see. Here it is. So this is the card, and then you can see the image on the back of this deck. So this deck is designed to be used for when we're going through difficult times in our life, for when we are having life-changing experiences, when we're in the midst of transformation, when we are being changed by things that are happening in our life. This is a deck that is wonderful to work with and that you will have a really positive experience with. Positive in that it's very open to helping you to really get into the wounds and heal them and release them. And they do this by working with these vampiric energies that Lucy and Jasmine have created for us to engage with and to get to know. So I was just going through the deck really quick, picking out my favorites. So this is a deck that has a very clear focus and purpose, and you might find that in your collection you don't use it as much as, say, you might use the Oracle of the Shapeshifters or the Oracle of the Mermaids deck, also by Lucy Cavendish. Those decks really are ones that you can use every day, and this deck does. Okay, so as I was saying, it's a more focused deck than those decks as far as there are an interplay of light and dark, like with the Oracle of Shadows and Light, that this deck more is focused on the dark night of the soul, and when you are going through truly difficult times and you're trying to break out of beliefs, patterns, conditioning that are really holding you back and that are not positive, and you're looking to track, befriend, heal these shadow sides of yourself so that you can become more of a whole person and being and happier in your life and make choices that you know you need to, that are for the better for yourself and other people in your life that you care about. So from that standpoint, this deck, you can definitely use it daily, and it works wonderfully for daily draws, etc. But the focus is more on that aspect. So for instance, you're going to see more cards with titles like Primal, Outsider, let's see, Ancient, Transmission. Then you're going to see cards like Hope or Love Conquers All. You're going to see more cards with keywords like Jealousy, reason, and the call of the night. So if you're not comfortable with that, if that's not something that you are comfortable with in your spiritual path, I would encourage you to examine that. So this might just be the deck for you, but you might find that it's not a deck that you want to invest in at this time. So that's just something for you to know as you look at purchasing this deck. If you are a fan of Lucy Cavendish and Jasmine Beckett Griffith, and then this is a deck that you're going to want to have in your collection, that you're going to love and that you're going to use a lot. I'm actually using this for my weekly deck challenge at this moment. As I record this, it's the beginning of April, and I'm using it for daily draws on Facebook this week. So you definitely can use it every day, but it just has more of a darker focus than some of her other decks, where there's a nice weave of light and dark energy in it. This has more of a darker energy, focus, and feel to it. Before I talk about the cards, I'm going to talk a little bit about the guidebook. And I say this as someone who loves Lucy Cavendish's work and who loves Jasmine Beckett Griffith's work. Actually, there's nothing, like, I have nothing to say about Jasmine Beckett Griffith's work other than the fact that it's absolutely stunning as always, and it's perfect for this deck. So I love Jasmine Beckett Griffith's artwork, and it's no different in this deck. It doesn't disappoint at all. It's absolutely beautiful. I find that I am a little, I guess, disappointed in the guidebook. I love guidebooks, and I love when I have a nice, meaty guidebook that I can really sink my teeth into. And we all talk about Phantasmagoria, Ian Daniels' Tarot of the Vampires guidebook, as like, it's kind of like the holy grail of guidebooks to me, because it's absolutely perfect. You just want to get in that guidebook and stay in it for days and days and days. And I have reread that guidebook so many times, it's not even funny at this point. This is a guidebook, and usually I love Lucy Cavendish's guidebooks, and I reread those. And I always read the guidebook when I draw cards for myself, you know, like the card meanings for that, along with my intuition, just because I always get something new out of the guidebook. And they are longer guidebooks, and I love them. This guidebook is like most of hers, as far as there's a tiny reproduction, the title of the card, the keywords, and then you have Lay Vampire Speaks, the blessing, the curse, and how to work with the card. So I love it that she does that. I feel almost like maybe she was rushed a little bit when she wrote this guidebook. It's just not as in-depth as she usually gets, and I feel like she usually gets more into the mythology behind why she's choosing to call these energies forward for the deck. And like in Oracle of the Mermaids, she really gets into mermaid mythology, and I kind of was hoping for more of a dive into vampire mythology with this deck, and I didn't really have that experience. And the intro is really short compared to how long she usually draws out an intro. This is only 23 pages long, and she has some layouts which are great. Tells you how to work with spreads, etc. But she has like one modern vampire story, and I don't really get why she threw it in there, and she doesn't really describe why she threw it in there. So I found that perplexing, and I talked about this in my reveal of this deck when I first got it. I don't know. I feel I am a little disappointed in this guidebook, and only because her other guidebooks really are so in-depth, and they raise the bar for Oracle guidebooks. They are not just here's a couple paragraphs and an affirmation like you find with some of them. Her guidebooks really, really do get into the mythology, the symbolism, and you really feel like you're walking into a landscape in a realm when you work with her guidebooks and her decks. I definitely feel that I'm walking into a landscape in a realm with this deck, and I have nothing negative to say about that. But I do wish that there was more in the guidebook, just because I am a guidebook lover. So if you really love the Wild Wisdom of the Fairy guidebook, if you love the Oracle of the Mermaids guidebook, if you love the Oracle of the Shapeshifters guidebook, and the Oracle of Shadow and Light guidebook, this guidebook might feel a little like rough and kind of short and not as in-depth as she typically gets. And so I was disappointed in the guidebook with this deck. And that's like the only complaint that I have about this deck, And it's not that I don't think that she put a lot of work into it, although I do wonder if she was rushed when she was writing the guidebook. It's just that she usually has so much that she gives you in the guidebook, and I'm wondering why this guidebook kind of doesn't have that feeling as much. And when she talks about the Vampires Speak section, she talks about some things, and then when she gives you the meaning, sometimes it's not what she was talking about in the Vampires Speak section. And that is perplexing to me as well. So let's see, like, with the monster within, right? Let me see if I can find that card. Here's the monster within. The keywords are internal struggle, personal challenges, wanting to improve. And she kind of goes into in the Vampire Speak section, she's talking about that we need to have control and discipline. And then in the blessings, she talks about kind of transforming these faults and flaws into strengths, but in a way that's a little confusing and contradictory to me. There's a better card for this. So she'll kind of go in a direction on the Vampire Speak part, and then in the meanings, it's like we kind of do a little turn with it, and that's interesting to me and kind of a little confusing as I'm reading the guidebook. So that's something that I will say I find interesting. Like typically with Maynard, she will say, like she'll go into the Vampire Speaks talking about, you know, being free with your sexuality and having a very carnal experience at this time, and making sure that it's in a safe environment for yourself, but that you're allowed to explore that at this time. And the blessing backs up what she says in the Vampire Speak section. Whereas with some of the cards, it doesn't back it up. It kind of takes a different direction, and that's a little confusing for me. So I'm talking about the guidebook a lot because I'm just perplexed by the guidebook. I'm going to give it a read a few more times. I've read it once and see if my viewpoint changes, and then I'll do a follow-up video on it for those of you who are interested. But I was a little perplexed by the guidebook, a little bit disappointed, to be honest. And again, for a regular guidebook, it kicks ass. For a Lucy Cavendish guidebook, it falls a little bit short as a reader and a lover of her guidebooks. Let's talk about my favorite card images. I love every image in this deck, so but I love, like, this is Courtesy, some of Jasmine Beckett Griffith's newer artwork. It's just so beautiful, and there's lots of wolves in this deck too. Here's the Call of the Night. Here's Jealousy. Reason. So beautiful. I love the skulls. Hope. Transmission. Ancient. Outsider. Primal. Natural. Discipline. Eternal Youth. Witness. So you'll see that we have a few of her faces of fairies, which are just close-ups of fairy faces in this deck, and I think it's actually really effective, and I love it, and I would love to see them do a deck where it's just the faces of fairies images. Here's Prey. I love this one. Creator. So you have your title and keywords underneath to help you if you're a beginner. Here's Thirst. Transgression. Anti-hero. Death Rights. And you can see we have a nice thin border, so it's not too distracting. We do have this little flourish on 2 of the 4 corners. It's okay. It's fine. It's kind of weird to me, but it doesn't really. I've learned to just ignore the borders for the most part. Hunter. Her Last Day in the Light. Religion. Love this image. Supernatural. So cute. Let's see, call for help. So pretty. Free will. And here's the main egg. It's beautiful. This is from the Poisonous Beauty series. It's so pretty. Redemption. This is the Penitent Magdalene if you purchase a print of it. And I have this print in my house. It's just so gorgeous. I was so happy to see this in one of their decks together. This is Resurrection. This one's gorgeous. Faith. Ecstasy. And I think right now, at least, this is my favorite image in the deck. Sacrifice. So beautiful. And here are the other cards, and it's not that I disliked these, they just didn't stick out to me quite as much as the ones that I just absolutely loved, but these are still gorgeous. So on the whole, this is a deck worthy of purchase. It is great for shadow work, it's wonderful for meditation, and it's great for divination as well. For daily draws, like I said, it does work, but the focus is more on shadow work, dark night of the soul, healing the places within ourselves that we tend to ignore and look over because we don't, because we're not proud of them. So this deck is really intended to help you work with that. If you are a Cavendish Beckett Griffith fan, this is one that will not disappoint. With the caveat to that being, Guidebook is interesting. It's a little bit of a different guidebook than we usually get from Cavendish. But this is just an absolutely beautiful deck. And Gypsy Chick told me, she sent me a link that Beckett Griffith and Cavendish are currently working on a fairy deck. So that's really exciting too. I can't wait to get that. I love and adore any decks that Lucy Cavendish and Jasmine Beckett Griffith do together. It's just like the perfect combo of a witch who truly, truly honors the energy she works with and creates gorgeous guidebooks and has these beautiful, beautiful energies coming through oracle decks, and Jasmine Beckett Griffith's wonderful, unique, gorgeous artwork. So this is a deck that you can't lose with, in my opinion, even if you're not wowed by the guidebook like I was, underwhelmed by the guidebook. The artwork and the deck energies itself absolutely just make this deck worthy of purchase. I give it a really great recommendation. It's a wonderful oracle deck, and if you're considering stepping into shadow work, it's a really beautiful, fluid way to do that. So I hope that if you have this deck, and if you purchase this deck, you end up loving it as much as I do, and let me know what you think of it in the comments below. Many blessings, guys, and I will see you in the next video.